Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Kakashi trains Team 7 and develops into a truly capable shinobi team? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Team 7 had just completed another D-ranked mission. All of them were getting sick of them. Naruto especially had been vocal about it. Kakashi had put him on his back quick for his lip. Impressively enough, the boy had blocked his first 2 attacks before Kakashi had put him down. He wasn't going at maximum speed, but that had still been impressive. I know all of you are itching to prove yourselves, but haste makes dead shinobi. These next lessons are going to be critically important. Teamwork is the key to all the great teams. Ino Shikacho being the famous one of my generation. Individually none of them are inferior shinobi, but they are not standout fighters. Together they have taken multiple teams on at once and emerged triumphant. That famous group is actually the parents of Choji, Shikamaru and Ino, Sakura realized. All 3 genin looked ready and eager to learn. Ah, motivation, what a beautiful thing it is, Kakashi wryly thought to himself. All right, first up I want Sasuke to use Kaden, Gokaku, fire release, great fireball technique, and Naruto you will use Futon, Daitapa, wind release, great breakthrough. Kakashi walked up to a tree and carved an X over the center of its trunk. This is your target. Oh, and Sakura, stand back a bit. Futon, Daitapa, wind release, great breakthrough. Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique. The 2 ninjutsu collided together and blew the tree apart. The firestorm smashed scorched the tree into pieces. It continued on to blacken the trees behind it. Kakashi had one of his clones use a water jutsu to put out the flames that had caught a few of the trees nearby. The genin merely stared with wide eyes. When you practice this technique, don't use it on any more trees, otherwise we'll lose our village named Sake, Kakashi joked. Naruto let out a yell. That was amazing. That attack could destroy anything. Kakashi's eye twitched. Naruto, there are plenty of defenses against the attack. Who can name a supplementary jutsu that could stop this attack? Sakura answered. Kawarimi no jutsu, substitution technique. Kakashi graced her with an eye smile. Correct. Attacks like the one you saw can be defeated with minor chakra output. Naruto squinted with his eyes. Then what is the point? Why did we learn these jutsu if they aren't going to help? Kakashi answered, because sometimes there is nothing nearby that can be used to switch places with. Additionally, if the shinobi is caught unprepared, this attack can hit them before they realize the danger they are in. Or the shinobi is using their own jutsu on you, so not only do you counter their attack but crush them with this. Maybe your comrade put them in a genjutsu. Even if it only lasted a second, it would be long enough for this jutsu to kill. And of course there is the ever-present number 1 shinobi killer, arrogance. Surely a genin jutsu couldn't beat my defense, a higher-ranked shinobi might say. Well, this will come as a big surprise and possibly a fatal one. Now do you see the purpose? Naruto rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. Sasuke had thought of some of Kakashi's scenarios but not all of them. The combination of the 2 jutsus actually rivaled the destructive power of some ranked jutsus. Sasuke once again reevaluated the benefit of having a team. He was starting to see several advantages to having strong allies at his back. Sakura was impressed with the damage done by the jutsu and wished her chakra reserve was higher. Her sensei had said she only needed a little bit more reserves before she too could use the Kaden jutsu. When that happened, she could also be a valued member of the team. Sakura could also sense that Kakashi had meant the genjutsu comment for her. Sakura was falling in love with the concept of being a medic nin but would keep an open mind when Kakashi-sensei taught her a genjutsu. This is a kill move and should be used with caution if we need the target alive. Speaking of which, let's talk about protocol for keeping enemies alive, Kakashi told his team. If dealing with an unknown shinobi, everyone should fight to kill. I've mentioned it in previous lesson but it bears repeating. Kill quickly, A wise shinobi knows that they are in danger until the opponent is dead. Kakashi gave Naruto a look. Naruto here will be calling out our opponents based on the bingo books I've had him memorize. If the enemy is Chunin or lower, it is safe to attempt to capture. If you recognize a Jonin level foe, let us know and we will fight to kill. Capturing an enemy is significantly harder than killing one, but information is life, sometimes the added risk is worth it. Kakashi took a deep breath as the next point hit close to him. If the goal is to capture someone alive but your comrade will perish unless you unleash a deadly jutsu, then unleash the deadly jutsu, Kakashi commanded. His tone took one of reverence. Those who don't follow rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. The infamous copycat Nin looked carefully in each of his genins' faces. All of them had acknowledged what he had said. All right, moving on. Subterfuge is a basic shinobi art that isn't used often enough. Due to Naruto's mastery of the Kage Bunshin, we have a wonderful tool to use. Sasuke thought about some of the tactical implications and smirked. Having that many extra bodies had lots of advantages. Naruto, when a battle begins, you should attempt to flood the area with another 20 to 30 Kage Bunshin. Henge a few to make them look like us. While you do this, Sakura will make regular clones to make it more confusing for the enemy. They won't be able to henge but will add to the distraction. At that point, Naruto, you are to call out if you identify the enemy. We don't need fancy code words, just identify the threat. Naruto cocked his head to the side. What type of information should I provide? Kakashi responded, rank primarily, any known tactics or specialties. Remember, if Chunin or lower we go for the capture, if it is a Jonin we kill. Kakashi turned to Sasuke. Meanwhile, you will activate your Sharingan and determine if our attackers are using any illusions. You will do this even if we are facing bandits, Ronin or samurai. It is easy for a shinobi to pretend to be something they are not. I knew an Anbu operative who assumed the bandits were just bandits and he lost his life when the hidden shinobi blew his head off. Sakura shivered. She could only imagine what kind of jutsu did that. She rubbed her arms a bit. Kakashi was serious. The life of a shinobi was life and death when they entered the battle. If everything is as it should be, then no need to call out anything. If it is a Jonin, then Naruto's clones will engage the enemy. Feel free to add ranged weapons and jutsu as you like. Killing the enemy before they get close diminishes the risk you face in the battle. Kakashi eyed Sasuke. I'll repeat this for you, Sasuke. Shinobi battles are not the place to test your abilities. That's a good way to get killed, and where will your ambition be then? You will electrocute, burn and pierce enemies from a distance. Sasuke frowned but responded with a, "Hi sensei." Sasuke paused, but only against Jonin threats, otherwise I can get close, correct? Kakashi nodded. Time your attacks so they work together. Not just with a jutsu combination but with any move. If you throw a kunai with an explosive tag, the shinobi will probably jump in one direction. As soon as you determine that direction, unleash your attack. Because the Sharingan allows you to see even minute muscle twitches and glances, you are the cleanup Sasuke. Naruto and Sakura will make them move and then you will finish it. Sasuke understood his role and was pleased with it. He was the executioner. It seemed fitting for an Avenger like himself. They drilled various combination moves and attacks. They also discussed what to do when faced with certain situations. Kakashi drilled the tenets that he operated by over and over. Teamwork first. Never assume you've won. Don't talk about your abilities. Kill quickly. Kakashi was pleased with how the team was coming together. Towards the end of the day, he started Naruto and Sasuke on the water walking exercise with his clone and started working with Sakura on Genjutsu. The Genjutsu we will be learning is the technique I used on you. It is not a powerful Genjutsu, but it will be a great starting point, Kakashi explained. The technique is called Magen, Narakumi no Jutsu. Demonic illusion. Hell viewing technique. Sakura's eyes widened. That's a basic Genjutsu. The one that made me see Sasuke dying in front of me. Kakashi eyed the genin. Yes. The Genjutsu is pretty basic, for a variety of reasons. Kakashi held up his index finger as he said, 1. It doesn't change what you see, it only adds to the victim's senses. This means unlike other genjutsu that completely obscures the victim's five senses and replaces it with their own version of reality, this one just adds one scene. Kakashi held up a second finger and continued, 2. It only affects two senses, sight and hearing. Your sense of taste, touch and smell were not impacted. This makes the jutsu quite easy to detect and why I was not surprised that you fell for it so easily. Kakashi raised a third finger, and finally it does not reveal the victim's greatest fear, instead it reflects the victim's most probable recent fear. Sakura scrunched her brow as she thought about it. Can you explain that a little to me a little bit more thoroughly? Kakashi complied. If I had used this jutsu after having dinner with your family, you may have seen your mother or father dying. It all depends on the emotional bond you have with individuals. The jutsu isn't even specific to that. It could be failure to realize a dream or desire. Either way, it is not necessarily the deepest or darkest fear someone has. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei. How do I make the genjutsu work? Kakashi explained how genjutsu worked, how it attacked the enemy's chakra and took over their senses. Triggers were most frequently sight, but some shinobi even used sound or smell to initiate them. In theory, I suppose it can be done by taste and touch, but I have not seen a genjutsu function that way. Sakura eagerly drank up all of the knowledge that was given to her. Kakashi showed her how to infuse her chakra into her victim's chakra network. With Sakura's excellent chakra control, it wasn't difficult at all. Kakashi also used it on Sakura again. This time she saw Naruto, Sasuke and Kakashi dying before her eyes. Knowing how it worked, she was able to ignore the effect. She decided to test it by walking up to Sasuke and touching the image. It wavered as she did so and then dissipated. Her sensei taught her how to break genjutsu as well. Knowing you are under a genjutsu is half of the battle. After that, you can flood your chakra system with your own chakra, breaking the effect, or you can cause physical pain to yourself. Neither method is foolproof, but a skilled genjutsu specialist should have an easier time breaking out of one. After Sakura tried a few times, they called it a day and Sakura went home to complete her evening exercises. Sakura was an intelligent kunoichi. After the teamwork exercises, she could see the advantage of genjutsu. If she could pin an opponent in place for even a second or two, then Naruto and Sasuke could hammer them with their jutsu combination. Perhaps I should focus on genjutsu, but if Sasuke-kun or even Naruto ever got injured, I'd just hate myself forever if I couldn't heal them because I passed up on medical nin training. Sakura tossed and turned that night. Medical training or genjutsu? Medical training or genjutsu? Both had their advantages. With genjutsu, the team's jutsu combination kill combo would be quite dangerous. If they could kill the enemy before anyone could get injured, wasn't that better? Sakura shivered when she thought about killing. Kakashi talked about it a lot and it was now her biggest concern. Killing someone that was trying to kill you was one thing. But Kakashi talked about how the best way to kill someone is end their life before they even knew it was in danger. Could she really kill in cold blood? Sakura continued to toss and turn as she wrestled with that question for most of the night. Break. At the 3-week mark, Kakashi finally allowed them to take a rank C mission. The final jutsu he wanted them to master before taking a higher ranked mission was the Shunshin. With it they had a powerful tool to escape with if they needed to. The Shunshin was a misunderstood jutsu. To a civilian it looked like a teleportation jutsu. In reality it was just a shinobi moving incredibly fast using chakra to boost their speed. The jutsu had its weaknesses. While the speed was great, it did not allow a shinobi to move their limbs faster. It essentially just pushed a tremendous amount of momentum in a single direction. It could even be dangerous to oneself if used improperly. The Sharingan wielder has taught his students the dangers and when to use it. Sasuke, using the Sharingan, had learned it the quickest. Next was Sakura, but Naruto wasn't too far behind when he created a dozen clones to help him learn it. With that in place, Kakashi felt the time was right to give his team a real mission. Team 7 reported to the Hokage Tower with Naruto literally jumping up and down with excitement. Kakashi stopped the team. Naruto, if you want to go on the mission, settle down. You are embarrassing the team. Naruto forced himself to calm down. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi was handed the mission folder. We will be escorting an architect to Nami no Kuni. Kakashi scanned the paperwork. Our client is concerned about increased bandit activity preventing his workers from completing a bridge. This should be a simple C-ranked mission. Bandits will be no match. But remember, arrogance can get you killed, so I want everyone to be on their toes. The three genin nodded and Kakashi motioned them to follow. It was time to meet their client. The Hokage was there and Naruto had to avoid saying hi to his Gigi. Kakashi had been very firm with Naruto on how to act around a client. The client stepped out drinking from a bottle. He took a swig and said, "What? I paid for bodyguards and all I get are little kids." Naruto scowled. "Who are you calling a little kid?" Kakashi's eye twitched. The Hokage merely chuckled. "Tazuna-san, you have one of the Leaf's best shinobi, an elite Jonin with you. You will be more than safe in his capable hands." Naruto pointed his thumb at himself. "And me. I'm going to be the next Hokage and then you'll have to respect me." Hiruzen attempted to suppress his mirth at Kakashi's expense. With his crystal ball he had seen exactly how hard Kakashi had trained Team 7. He had also seen how hard Kakashi had worked to get Naruto to act like a proper shinobi. Kakashi's frosty tone was not lost on Naruto. "If you are done, Naruto, it is time to prepare for the mission. Meet at the front gate and prepare for travel. Since we are escorting a civilian, the trip to Nami no Kuni should take 2 days." Naruto suppressed a groan. He had already made his sensei mad and the mission hadn't even started. "I'm going to do better. Kakashi-sensei is going to be proud of me for the rest of this mission." Naruto made this silent promise and intended to keep it. 2 later they were all at the front gate. Tazuna looked impatient to be on his way. Kakashi eyed him. Something didn't feel right about the mission. Kakashi decided to let things go. It was doubtful that anything on this mission would pose a challenge to a shinobi of his caliber. Furthermore, his team had dramatically improved with his training. All the same, he would be on his guard. Overconfidence was the sure path to death. "All right, Naruto, since we are leaving Konoha, I want you to create 8 clones. Have them fan out at variable distances within a mile of the group. If one of them sees something, have it dispel so you can then inform us. Try to have them be at least a little stealthy," Kakashi ordered. "No problem, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto quickly made the required number of shadow clones and sent them on their way. Tazuna did not know much about shinobi abilities, but that one sure looked useful in keeping him safe. He felt a bit bad about lying to the shinobi, especially with the fact they were just kids, but this was his country's only hope. During the first hour of the journey, Naruto was keeping a sharp eye out for any sign of danger. In fact, he was a bit too jumpy as he twitched and prepared for battle every time a woodland creature moved. Kakashi cautioned Naruto. "Naruto, while it's good you are taking it seriously, it's important that you stop sounding false alarms." Naruto flushed. All of the talk about death and killing and battle tactics had made him a bit jump. Kakashi added, "And keep in mind, even if you did spot an enemy coming, it's not always a good idea to sound the alarm. If they feel they have the surprise when they don't, it can be a nasty surprise. So calm down a bit." "Hi, Kakashi-sensei." The journey continued for another couple of hours when Kakashi saw a puddle of water. It hadn't rained in a few days, so it was quite out of place for his finely honed senses. Without changing his movements in the slightest, Kakashi reached out with his senses and determined that there were 2 enemy shinobi hiding. Unlikely a Jonin-level enemy would make that mistake. "I'll be ready to step in if things go poorly, but my team needs real shinobi combat," Kakashi thought to himself. Sure enough, after a few moments as the group walked by the puddle, 2 shinobi, each wielding a large gauntlet, attacked. They struck at the most dangerous target first. Kakashi completed an undetectable replacement jutsu right as a chain that connected the 2 gauntlets and shinobi together was wrapped around him. Kakashi stayed hidden off to the side, as he watched what his team would do. Naruto shouted, Chunin level. Missing Nin from Kurigakure, hidden mist, affinity with water and they use poison. He had shouted this information as he performed the Kage Bunshin deploying over a dozen shadow clones. Sakura created regular clones that dashed forward attempting to distract the two Chunin level opponents. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and saw Kakashi hiding off to the side. Guess he thinks we can handle them. Sasuke smirked as he threw a few shuriken at the pair of shinobi racing for them. The shuriken were avoided but right behind them came in the Naruto horde. The first wave had raced forward while the second had paused to henge to look like Sakura and Sasuke. The missing Nin used the chain to good effect, catching two of the clones right away. One of the clones attempted a flying kick that the enemy on the left ducked. Another clone attempted a strike at the torso of the one on the right. A quick jab made the clone poof into smoke. The final clone of the first five came in right behind the clone that had just been dealt with and kicked him in the kneecap. The blow was strong and Gozu's leg buckled underneath him. The second wave of clones had arrived mingled in with Sakura's images. The mass of opponents they were suddenly faced with surprised them. Gozu had to release the chain and quickly defend himself as multiple clones attacked. Several more went poof but Naruto just grinned and made more. Sakura fired off a pair of kunai further distracting the two. Sasuke chose that moment to strike. As Maizu blocked the kunai with his gauntlet, Sasuke dashed forward with surprising speed. His fist slammed into his opponent's ribs. Maizu grunted and tried to bring his poison-tipped gauntlet around but with the Sharingan spinning it was telegraphed and easily avoided. A Naruto clone kicked the back of Maizu's calf sending him to the ground. Sasuke took full advantage and grabbed the gauntleted arm and snapped the enemy shinobi's arm. A kunai appeared in his hand and was held at the demon brother's throat. Maizu was beaten and he knew it. Gozu was favoring one leg while the Naruto clones rushed him. He could not get free of the clones to come help his brother. Naruto saw one of his clones jump in the air and he knew his next move. Gozu was popping clones left and right but since they were only coming in 2 or 3 at a time he had several to deal that were always easily replaced. The clone that leapt into the air was quickly hit with a kawarimi from the real Naruto who was now in the air and in perfect position to use his jutsu. He flashed through the hand signs in mid-air. Futon. Daitapa, wind release, great breakthrough. The blast of air crashed down at an angle on Gozu. The blast destroyed several clones but that was just fine by Naruto. The gale force wind slammed Gozu into the ground with tremendous force. Because it was at an angle he slid a good 15 feet, the abrasive ground cut through his clothing and ripped up skin. Even before he finished sliding several clones landed next to him and pinned him down. One held a kunai at his throat. Move and you die, the Naruto clone said in a calm voice. Sakura had been defending Tazuna after throwing 2 of her kunai. She was relieved and happy that the battle was over. It had been their first shinobi battle and it was won without any injuries. Kakashi congratulated them and quickly secured their 2 prisoners. He attached a chakra seal and secured them tightly enough not even a Jonin could escape. He then turned to the bridge builder. We need to talk about what is really going on. Tazuna looked around. What do you mean? Kakashi raised his killing intent and Tazuna backed up as the oppressive pressure bore down on him. The Jonin's voice took on a cold and ominous tone. You lied about the mission parameters, that could have gotten us killed. Were you in league with this shinobi? Was this a trap set for us? Kakashi did not think that was the case at all but fear could be a powerful motivator in making someone talk. As he suspected Tazuna stumbled over himself trying to explain himself. I'm not working with them. I swear. Tazuna held his hands up as he backed away. They were trying to kill me to stop me from building the bridge. Sasuke smirked. Sensei is good. Hi Tazuna-san, I never doubted they wanted you dead, but why are their shinobi trying to stop you from building the bridge? Kakashi asked the question in a more conversational tone and Tazuna relaxed. The architect sagged. The Jonin believed him, but he had given it away. He was expecting the attack. All right, I'll tell you everything. It all started when a despicable man by the name of Gato came to our land. Tazuna proceeded to tell the story of the suffering of Nami no Kuni. The four-leaf nin listened to his story. Naruto in particular wanted to save them from Gato, who reminded him of the bullies in the village who had mocked him and tried to take away his will to go on. Gato was doing the same thing, demoralizing and controlling an entire land simply because he had the resources to do it. Naruto shouted out, "We are going to save your country and kick out this Gato guy." Believe it. Kakashi interrupted, "Naruto, not so fast. This was supposed to have been a C-ranked mission. Any mission that involves enemy shinobi is automatically at least a B-ranked mission. Genin do not take B-ranked missions." Sasuke responded. "But we have to help them," Naruto shouted. Sakura remained quiet. She wanted to help the people of Nami no Kuni, but shouldn't this be handled by a more experienced team? Yes, Tazuna had said that they couldn't afford to pay for a B-ranked mission, but what if Sasuke-kun or Naruto got hurt? Inner Sakura screamed, "Coward! You're afraid. If you want to be a shinobi, you have to be willing to fight. So go out there and fight. Show Sasuke-kun what you are made of." Cha-cha-cha. Sakura bit her lip and then quietly but firmly said, "We can do it. We are a team and look at what we have accomplished. Please, Kakashi-sensei, please let us continue the mission." Both Naruto and Sasuke looked at her. Naruto grateful and Sasuke was appraising her in a new way. Kakashi looked at his Genin team and thought about the situation. Likely they would face another threat. This time it would probably be a Jonin. If a Jonin was their opponent, Kakashi was confident he could handle the threat. However, battle was never a certain thing. He would have to be on his guard. Is my team ready? Perhaps, but I'll need to test how far they are willing to go. Sasuke would have no qualms, and I'm confident about Naruto. But Sakura, the leader of Team 7, told his team, "I have decided how we should handle this. Sakura, it will be your choice. If you wish to continue this mission, you must prove you are fully committed." Tazuna looked on hopeful. Naruto was confused. "What do you mean?" Sakura already said she wanted to continue. "It's simple. I know you and Sasuke have the killer instinct to fight with the intent to kill. I don't know if Sakura does. In order to prove to me that she does have that instinct, she must kill one of our prisoners." Everyone tensed at the announcement. Sakura froze, her eyes widening in horror. Sasuke narrowed his eyes and tried to think of a way around Kakashi's test. This might work, he thought. Kakashi-sensei, these two might have information. We should keep them alive. Kakashi laughed. "Nice try, Sasuke. I appreciate you trying to work as a team, however both of them probably have the same amount of information. There is no point in leaving both alive. Sakura will have to pass this test." Sakura's mind shrank away from the task. In the middle of combat she felt she could kill if it meant saving Sasuke-kun's life or that of another leaf shinobi. But in cold blood, after the battle is finished, it was unthinkable. But if she didn't do it, the people of Nami no Kuni would continue to suffer under the tyrant businessman's boot. Sakura looked at the two missing nin and swallowed thickly. She looked at the faces of her teammates. Naruto looked shocked at the turn of events. Sasuke looked pissed, likely because he thought she wouldn't go through with it. Tazuna looked at her with pleading eyes. Sakura's hand was shaking. How could her sensei make her do this? Kakashi raised his voice. "Did you think being a shinobi was glamorous? We are assassins, thieves, spies and infiltrators. If you aren't willing to kill, you aren't going to be on this team. Don't mistake my meaning, Sakura. If you don't kill, you will remain on Team 7. I will give you future chances. However, at some point or another I will require that you kill someone. If you can't do that, then drop out and work at the Konoha hospital." Sakura didn't want to let her team down. She didn't want to let the people of Nami no Kuni down. She pulled out a kunai. Her hand trembled. Tears welled at her eyes. This was the moment of truth. A heavy weight pressed down on her chest. If she did this, her path in life would be different than she had ever dreamed it could be. Would she walk the killer's path? Naruto watched his crush with bated breath. He was angry with his sensei for putting her through this. Sakura was being torn apart by the weight of her decision. Sakura took a deep breath. Before she could change her mind, she pulled out a kunai and threw it at the helpless shinobi. The kunai sank into the soft flesh of Gozu's neck. Death took the shinobi and Sakura felt a chill cover her body. Kakashi walked over to Sakura and gently cupped her face. Good work, shinobi. The word shinobi was said quietly yet forcefully. It imparted meaning that was not there before. Meaning that was not there prior to the taking of a life. Sakura stood proudly for a moment, her chin lifted up. A sudden sickening sensation filled her. I'm proud. I'm proud I murdered someone in cold blood. Sakura turned away and ran 4 steps before heaving the contents of her stomach out. Naruto went to comfort her, but Kakashi stopped him with a simple shake of his head. Sakura puked her guts out and then collapsed to her knees. Soft sobs filled the clearing. Kakashi summoned Pakun and gave him instructions to take a message back to Konoha. All 3 of his genin made no comment on the summon. The Ninken was a bit miffed but saw the corpse and instantly knew that it had been someone's first kill. Pakun just agreed to take the message and rushed off to the village hidden in the leaves. The pink-haired girl's cries finally stopped. She sniffed a few times and looked at her teammates. I'm ready. They continued their journey to Nami no Kuni. Sasuke remarked to Naruto, are you sure you identified them correctly? They were weak and were Chunin. Yup, I'm sure they were on page 11. Maybe they got rusty. Kakashi interrupted their conversation. Ranks don't mean everything. They may have become Chunin based on their stealth abilities. At first I did not sense them, that means they had Jonin level stealth skills. If it wasn't for their lack of knowledge of the weather here, they would have been able to strike before I was ready. Kakashi gave a small shrug. I probably would have survived, but I could see it working on other Jonin. And it would have been a piece of cake against a Chunin or lower. Their Jonin sensei continued his lecture on rankings. Luck also places a factor in Chunin exams. Each village structures their exam in a different way. It wouldn't surprise me if the village hidden in the mist focuses on stealth as a key to passing their Chunin exams. Kakashi also warned them that rank could be deceptive. There was a genin within Konoha that was probably more powerful than any Chunin servicing in the Leaf's shinobi force. Naruto asked, why hasn't he been promoted? He has refused every promotion. Why? He has his reasons, but they aren't mine to share. They camped at night. Kakashi personally set a number of traps as well as cast a genjutsu over them to hide their presence. That done, they also set up watches. On the first watch, Sakura talked with Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, does it get easier? Kakashi looked at her, his gaze steady with a hint of compassion in his single visible eye. Yes. Killing is something that gets easier over time. You will always remember your first kill, but if you have a long and successful career as a shinobi, it will become second nature. Sakura was chilled at the thought of being used to killing people. You kill for a reason, to finish the mission. Ultimately, the mission is the security of Konoha. For your parents, your future children, your teammates, fellow shinobi, and those who cannot protect themselves. By killing your enemies, you keep your village safe, you save lives. Sakura looked like she wanted to say something, but Kakashi continued. Sakura, make no mistake, the demon brothers were destined to die the minute they attacked us. The one we left behind for Anbu to pick up will be interrogated and then executed. If you hadn't killed him, someone else would have. If you choose to quit the team and stop being a shinobi, someone else will fill that role and blood will still be spilled. The copy Nin's gaze took on a harsher appearance. A refusal to kill, to not be a shinobi, does not lessen killing in the world. It only passes the burden on to someone else. Your squeamishness was a risk for Team 7 and you will emerge from this stronger. You are strong enough to bear the burden so someone else doesn't need to. Take pride in that, you bear the sacrifice of the bloody hands so someone else doesn't need to. Sakura thought about her sensei's words. His remarks were perfectly logical and they made sense. But some part of her soul fled from the cold logic that justified the dealing of death. The no longer innocent girl bowed her head. There has to be a better way, sensei. Kakashi sighed. I wish there was Sakura, but we live in a flawed world. Kakashi then grinned despite of the somber mood. But maybe when your teammate is Hokage he can bring the naive dream that is peace to reality. After all, he is the #1 unpredictable ninja, maybe he'll just surprise us all. Kakashi's grin slowly vanished, not that anyone could really see it behind his mask, and his tone hardened. Until that day comes, I expect you to be a shinobi and kill as you are ordered to. Hi Kakashi-sensei, Sakura responded. I'll be there for my team. I'll kill when I'm instructed. But there is a better way and this team is going to find it. Sakura promised herself, and when her watch came to an end she closed her eyes and went into a dreamless sleep. Break. The night passed uneventfully. In the morning they continued their journey to Nami no Kuni. Before that occurred, Kakashi had all of his genin remove their weights. Naruto complained at first, but Kakashi harshly told them it was not up for discussion. A Jonin threat will be faster than you. A fraction of a second can save your lives. Take them off. The three genin removed their weights and Kakashi sealed them in a scroll so it wouldn't weigh him down either. Their trip was not just on foot, they also had to travel via boat. All of them had mastered the water walking exercise, but Tazuna was with them so they had to travel through conventional means. Team 7 arrived at the banks. Their journey through the water had finished without incident. Naruto suppressed his urge to be jumpy, remembering Kakashi's earlier admonishment. Kakashi kept a wary out for any possible attack. No Jonin should be underestimated. His wariness was awarded as he felt a disturbance coming from the left side. A giant blade spun horizontally, heading straight for Team 7. Kakashi yelled out, "Contact," and then dashed forward. He carefully analyzed the spin of the blade and caught the handle. Driving the momentum downward, he buried the blade into the ground. Naruto instantly performed the Kage Bunshin and Sasuke opened his Sharingan. Zabuza Momochi grunted. He had not expected Kakashi to catch Kubikiribocho. Zabuza knew going into this fight it was going to be difficult. Kakashi was one of the Leaf's most powerful shinobi. But to have caught his own damn weapons like that. Kubikiribocho was not a light blade by any means, it has shocked him. Zabuza knew he had to be extremely careful when dealing with this opponent. The missing nin was surprised to see the Jonin's team spring into action. The blonde-haired shrimp had made 30 clones and Momochi could tell that they were actual shadow clones as opposed to the regular variety. The shinobi was wearing bright kill me orange, surely he was a joke and not a threat. Once again Zabuza was surprised when the boy spoke in a calm and clear voice. Zabuza, Jonin level threat, missing nin from Kurigakure. Naruto's thoughts raced as he continued, favors close combat, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, skilled in the art of the silent kill. Water affinity. The boy's tone was quick and clipped, but there was no hint of nerves. Zabuza began to let his chakra flow into the air, creating a dense fog. Kakashi was on him in an instant. Before the mist could even come together, a kunai was aimed at his heart. Zabuza was shocked at the speed. He quickly blocked the arm that was wielding the kunai. Kakashi's Sharingan saw the movement and was already lashing out with a taijutsu attack. Arms blurring with speed, he overcame Zabuza's defenses easy and smashed his kunai through his chest. Zabuza dispersed into a pile of water. The real Zabuza retrieved his blade. A tide of orange clones rushed at him. Mixed in were images of Kakashi, the pink-haired one and the dark-haired boy. One swing of the blade demolished several of the clones. Much to Zabuza's annoyance, however, is that they hadn't come all at once, meaning he had another wave right after the first. The clones were a distraction, not a serious threat, but he could not afford to be distracted against an opponent of Kakashi's caliber. Tch, he is these brats' instructor, he'll want to save them and I can then get an opening. As he thought this, he had to deal with Kakashi rushing him again. The Jonin was fast, faster than he was. Zabuza swung at Kakashi and the Leaf Shinobi rolled underneath the attack. Momochi pressed forward, kicking out as Kakashi completed the roll ready to strike. Kakashi instantly dodged to the right of his opponent, effectively sidestepping away and lashing out with kunai. First blood went to Kakashi as the shallow cut scraped Zabuza. Zabuza ignored the cut and pumped chakra into his feet and rushed the three genin and the bridge builder. He smashed through the Naruto clones like they weren't even there. Sasuke saw the Jonin move with speed he couldn't hope to match. His eyes did see where the attack was coming from and met it with the signature move learned from childhood. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique. In the same instant this was occurring, Naruto summoned a fresh batch of shadow clones. Sakura saw her crush blur through the hand signs and added the same attack, but this one aimed above Sasuke's. This would limit Zabuza's possible options. He could not leap over Sasuke's attack. The missing nin snarled at the unexpected elemental attack. Genin typically did not learn chakra manipulations so early. He leapt left avoiding the burning attack, however his forward momentum was stopped and Kakashi rushed him again. Zabuza swept Kubikiribocho in a great arc trying to force the Jonin back. Kakashi stopped in his tracks and threw the kunai at his opponent's leg at point-blank range. Zabuza twisted his body to the side awkwardly trying to avoid the blow, even so it still grazed him. A Naruto clone hit him with a flying kick while he was off balance. Zabuza was pushed forward the blow and had to hastily block Kakashi's taijutsu assault. The man forced himself in close, preventing Zabuza from effectively using the blade. Kakashi read every move Zabuza made was dominating him in the fight. Have to get to the water, he desperately thought. Zabuza had taken a blow to the ribs that made breathing slightly difficult, but he had finally put some separation between him and Masked Shinobi. He hastily performed the substation jutsu without hand seals. The rabbit was ignored by Kakashi, whose Sharingan I instantly knew Zabuza was no longer there. Zabuza rushed forward into the water and started to make a pair of water clones when Kakashi erupted underneath the surface of the water. As soon as his hand broke contact with the surface of the water, Kakashi gathered chakra to form the Chidori. Zabuza was baffled at how the shinobi was waiting for him and how he avoided being sensed. His bafflement didn't last long as the deadly lightning chakra slammed into him. Zabuza had already started turning when he heard the sound of disrupted water, but he was unable to match the speed against the leaf shinobi. The Chidori slammed into his side, smashing up through his rib cage and turning his heart to pulp. Kakashi had swapped with his clone after his initial clash with Zabuza. The water affinity would mean that the demon in the mist would want to retreat to the water if he felt threatened. While it had been risky to depend on just alone to pose a challenge, it has been a calculated one. Zabuza was a dangerous shinobi, but even without the Sharingan, Kakashi was confident he could win the fight. With the Sharingan, even his clone could hold his own and pose a threat. If a Naruto clone can start emitting chakra tails, then I see no reason why a clone can't also use the Sharingan. Team 7 was startled when another voice cried out. A shinobi in the clothing and mask of a hunter nin burst from hiding, shouting, "Zabuza!" A Naruto clone shouted out, "Unknown shinobi, garbed as Kurigakure hunter nin." Naruto had used a clone to do it. Kakashi had given him that tip. If the clones were already out, have one of them say it instead of the original, since opponents would assume the original was speaking. Kakashi was surprised he had not sensed the additional shinobi in the area. Whoever it was had to be skilled in stealth and was therefore dangerous. The masked shinobi raced towards Zabuza. Kakashi created a water clone to intercept the shinobi. While the shinobi was dressed like a hunter nin, the reaction to Zabuza's death was out of character. Naruto's clones followed his lead and swarmed the newcomer. Haku responded with Senbon needles thrown with deadly force. His world had just been shattered. He had failed Zabuza and had nothing left to live for. Death in battle would end his worthless existence. He didn't even try to use his Kekkei Genkai. Haku wanted to die and Kakashi was taking no chances. The outcome was inevitable. In the first clash, Kakashi rammed his kunai through Zabuza's apprentice's skull. Haku had felt nothing more than a sharp pain before the kunai ended his short life. Kakashi peered out with his Sharingan, looking to see if any more surprises were waiting to jump out. Seeing none, All of Team 7 searched the bodies and discussed what happened. Naruto asked his sensei, "I don't get it, who was she?" The older shinobi corrected his pupil, "Actually it's a he." Naruto did a double take. "What? Remember to see underneath the surface, Naruto. Until you can reliably see underneath, you cannot even begin to see underneath the underneath as a proper shinobi should." Kakashi continued, "As for why, that is difficult to say. I would guess that Zabuza was important to this shinobi, based on age, possible an apprentice or sibling, though no siblings are listed in the bingo books. Based on the disguise, I assume that if Zabuza got into trouble, this one would come and try to save him. Because my attack killed Zabuza too quickly, that didn't happen." Sasuke turned off his Sharingan. This was his first taste of a true shinobi battle. The killer intent had been massive, but having suffered through Kakashi's training as well as the fake assassination attempt by the Iwa Enin, he had held up well. With his Sharingan he had been able to follow the swordsman every step of the way. He knew his body would not have been able to keep up, so that was a humbling experience. However, he knew with the training he was receiving he would one day move at that level. Sakura was happy she had fulfilled her promise. It was partly due to her attack that Zabuza had to move the way he did. As she analyzed the battle, she realized that even without her attack the outcome would still have been the same. It did allow the battle to end more quickly. As her sensei had repeated over and over, a shinobi was dangerous until he was dead. Naruto had mixed feelings. He had fulfilled his role in the team by calling out the information on their opponents. His clones had been instrumental in distracting Zabuza. He had performed exactly the way his sensei had wanted him to. But he had not been satisfied. Naruto still had energy to burn. All he had done was make clones. Naruto had wanted to actually fight, to swing a punch or hit the enemy with a kick. It seemed vaguely cowardly to fight the way he had. Kakashi was a master at reading people, even without his Sharingan active. "Naruto, you and the rest of the team were excellent. What is the matter?" Naruto squinted. "I guess this isn't the way I imagined fighting the enemy." "Good. Being a shinobi isn't about honor or bravery, it is about victory. You serve the village and not yourself or your idealized version of what it means to be ninja." Kakashi gave him an eye smile. "And you won't become Hokage if you die while still a genin." Naruto perked up at the words, "Hi sensei. See Sakura. Kakashi thinks I can be Hokage." Sakura rolled her eyes. "You've gotten better, but you still have a long way to go." Naruto acknowledged her words. "You're right, but I'll make it there one day. Believe it." Kakashi walked over to the body of Zabuza and cut off his head. "And as an added bonus, we'll be able to collect the bounty for a rank A missing in Nin." Naruto blinked. He knew all the bounties in the bingo books. He was going to be rich. Sakura asked, "You did most of the work, sensei. How are we going to split it?" Kakashi looked at his team. "We split it evenly. We are a team. Though, I do expect you to use at least some of the bounty on items useful to your career as a shinobi." Two Naruto clones carried Kubikiribocho and walked with the rest of the team and Tazuna. The team was much more cheerful after hearing about the bounty. Tazuna also felt less guilty about the whole affair, since at least the team would be compensated appropriately. He hoped there would be no more attacks before the bridge was complete. Tazuna led Team 7 to his home. Kakashi's team met with Tazuna's family and learned of the sad fate of Kaiza, the hero that was executed by Gado's thugs. Naruto was enraged by the unfairness of the action. Sakura was also saddened by the story. When Inari stated that it was hopeless, that no one could defeat Gado, it was Sasuke who shook his head. "You are wrong. Gado is weak. He isn't even a shinobi. We defeated his hired shinobi on 2 occasions. If he messes with us, he's dead." Inari stormed off in tears, not believing a word of it. Naruto looked to his sensei. "What is going to happen after we leave?" Kakashi preferred brutal honesty than sugared words. "Gado will either destroy the bridge or position thugs at one end of it to collect a toll." Tazuna stood up. "Gado will try, but once the bridge is built they will see that we can stand up to Gado. They will fight him and his hired thugs." "Doubtful," Kakashi mildly responded. Tazuna quivered with rage. He had poured his heart and soul to building the great bridge. Many had thought he was a fool for doing so, but he would succeed, and no outsider shinobi was going to say otherwise. Sakura stepped in. Sensei, we have to help these people. Kakashi looked at her. Our job is to protect the bridge builder, not assassinate business tycoons. Tazuna stared at the Jonin. His anger would do him no good. He collapsed into his chair and held his head in his hands. Please, get rid of Gato for us. Kakashi ignored the impassioned plea. That wasn't the mission you hired our village for. I'll add it to the mission. The Sharingan wielder shrugged. That would need to be approved by the Hokage's office, and considering the financial state of the village, I doubt you would be able to gather the necessary funds. Naruto was furious. So what? Gato needs to be taken out. The older shinobi looked at Naruto. Does he now? Gato is no threat to Konoha, there is no reason to take him out. Sakura was moved by the village's plight and saw a way she could convince her sensei. Kakashi-sensei, Gato is a threat to the mission. He will probably hire more shinobi. We don't know if any other missing nin are nearby. If we take him out now, it will cause our mission to be more likely to succeed. Naruto looked at his crush with his eyes shining. Sakura is so smart, he thought to himself. Sasuke was mildly impressed, and his respect for the pink-haired kunoichi went up a notch. Kakashi gave his cute genin an eye smile. I didn't think you had learned your lesson so well, Sakura. Sakura felt a chill pass through her. Just the other day she was vowing to find another way than killing, and here she was urging the assassination of someone. She shook her head. There should be a better way. But you were right. We do live in a flawed world. And taking out Gato will make it better place. I want to do it. The team wants to do it, and it will increase the chances of our mission being success. Kakashi looked at his team. Are all of you in agreement? They all indicated their agreement. He turned to the bridge builder. We'll kill Gato for you, Tazuna, but in exchange, when your land is back on its feet, you'll give Konoha favored trade status. Tazuna nearly had tears in his eyes, and he expressed his gratitude to the shinobi present. Tazuna didn't have any official position, but as the person who would build the bridge that connected the land and brought back prosperity, he would be able to get it accomplished. While the Land of Waves was poor currently, it could become an important, if still minor, trading partner with Konoha. Now is the time to act. Right now Higato will have no one but thugs and maybe some disgraced samurai. With that being the only threat, I will let the three of you plan and carry out the operation. While surprised, the three genin were confident they could handle it. I will tag along in case this Gato fellow has another ranked shinobi with him. Your mission parameters are to ensure Gato dies tonight. The method is up to you. What you do with Gato's men is up to you. I will be observing, however I will cease helping beginning now. Team 7 looked at each other and Naruto spoke up first. Sakura-chan, maybe you should come up with the plan. You're really smart and I bet you could make the best plan. Sakura enjoyed being complimented, even if it was from Naruto. Even before she joined the team, it was nice to know that someone found her pretty and wanted to date her. Now that she had seen his work ethic and abilities, she valued his opinion even more. If only Sasuke-kun thought of me that way. Sakura looked to Sasuke, who simply inclined his head. Sakura began by finding out what they wanted to do. Should we try to avoid killing his mercenaries? Sasuke didn't care one way or the other and remained silent. Naruto looked up at Kakashi before looking back at Sakura. I don't think we need to kill them. Maybe just scare them a bit. Sakura liked the answer. She didn't want to kill anyone, she didn't have to. I guess the next question is who should be the one to do it. Sasuke volunteered. I'll do it. For once Naruto decided not to compete with his rival. Sakura was relieved she wouldn't be the one to do it. Even if Gato deserved death, even if it had to be done, she didn't want to be the one to do it. She knew Kakashi would find her weak for thinking this, but he had left them in charge and this is what the team had decided. Sakura formulated a plan. Gato may not know Zabuza is dead. Sasuke can henge as Zabuza and I can henge as his apprentice, and we can go in as if we were going to report what happened. Naruto can make clones of people in the area and be ready to jump in if something is dangerous. Naruto wanted to be closer to the action, but he didn't want to undercut Sakura's plan. HNN, it will do. We should go now. The longer we wait to report, the more suspicious it will be. Sasuke's suggestion was practical and they were in agreement. With the plan formed, Sakura looked to the older Leaf Nin for confirmation. Kakashi just shrugged his shoulders. He had said he wouldn't provide guidance and wouldn't interfere unless another high-ranked shinobi appeared. Sakura swallowed thickly and put on her disguise while Sasuke did the same. Naruto watched his two teammates head over to Gado's base of operations. He had 20 clones positioned around the area looking like civilians. He saw his teammates exchange words with some of the mercenaries guarding the front door. Whatever they said was enough to let them in. Naruto desperately wanted to know what was going on inside but kept his cool and observed. Getting in had been easy for the two genin. Meeting Gado had been even easier. Gado had several mercenaries in the room, include two guards who looked like they knew how to handle a blade. What am I paying you for? That bridge builder is still alive. I thought you were supposed to be the demon in the mist. Can't you do anything right? Sasuke smirked and activated his Sharingan. Without his weights he felt as light as a feather. His charge was noticed by the two guards who hastily tried to draw their blades in time to defend their master. Sasuke easily sped past them and jammed his kunai into Gado's chest. Pandemonium ensued. The two guards yelled out in rage and slashed at the Uchiha. Sasuke was disdainful at the slow telegraphed attacks. Maybe these two could bully civilians but not a trained shinobi. With his Sharingan it was even easier as he sidestepped the blows. Sasuke knife-palmed one in the throat and doubled over the other with a spinning heel kick. His elbow smashed into the back of the man's neck with brutal force, taking him down. Sakura jumped to the side and began using a genjutsu on the remaining opponents. Sakura used the jutsu Kakashi had taught her. Megan. Narakumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion, hell viewing technique. Of course, unlike other jutsu, she didn't shout out the name of the attack since it would have diminished its effectiveness. Sakura didn't know what the other mercenaries saw, but evidently her jutsu was powerful enough to send them fleeing for their lives. Naruto saw the men fleeing with fright. He and his clones bum-rushed Gado's base to find both Sakura and Sasuke just fine. You had me worried. They were terrified. Sakura smiled. It was just a simple genjutsu, and almost any shinobi could have detected it. Sasuke retrieved his kunai from Gado's still warm body and walked out. Team 7 went back to Tazuna and informed them of their success. Tazuna was amazed at how quickly it had occurred. They had left less than an hour ago. Tazuna didn't know about shinobi. He didn't know that even academy students could kill a grown man easily. Gado was cheap and so his hired help weren't skilled samurai who could hold their own with shinobi. Instead, Gado favored cheap brutes who could intimidate his victims. He would hire missing nin and then turn on them when they were wounded or careless. If things ever went sour, he just threw money at the problem. Incredibly impressed with the results, he told them they were more than welcome to stay at his home while the bridge was completed. They thanked the bridge builder and turned to Kakashi. Kakashi scratched his chin while the genin awaited his judgment of their plan and its execution. Not bad, not great, but not bad. It was faint praise from their sensei. Sakura asked, what was wrong with it? Against Gado and cheap thugs? Nothing really. Any plan would have worked. You used a basic jutsu to hide your appearance so you could get close and eliminate him. The direct approach worked in this case and minimized his chance to flee. Then what did we do wrong? Naruto angrily remarked. You didn't anticipate any problems. You were arrogant. If he did have a shinobi hidden as a mercenary, you wouldn't have known. Your approach was pure brute force. Sakura asked, how would you have done it? Kakashi answered, there were plenty of ways to do it. There is no one right way, but there are ways to minimize risk. Kakashi explained further. For example, Naruto could have used clones to henge as Zabuza and his accomplice and do the same thing you two did. If there was unexpected shinobi resistance, no one would be in danger of dying. Another option would have been to ambush Gato when he left his base. In that scenario, it would be easier for you to retreat if necessary. All three genin could see the value of what Kakashi was teaching them. While the outcome was never in doubt, it would be a good idea to minimize risk whenever possible. Kakashi had told them in an earlier lesson that success on 99 missions didn't mean you wouldn't die on the 100th. Always minimize the odds of failure and death by approaching every mission with caution. Ego and arrogance led to death. Naruto still had issues with how cowardly it felt to be thinking about minimizing his risk in every way possible. Kakashi had a sixth sense for picking out such thoughts. Naruto, we've had this discussion before. You owe it yourself, Konoha, and most importantly your team to avoid dying. I am not asking you to be a coward. If a teammate is in danger, I expect you to put your life on the line to save them. But don't take unnecessary chances. What if you took an unnecessary chance and your teammate rightly tried to save you? And then they become injured or even kill because of your arrogance. Hi Kakashi-sensei, Naruto replied. Naruto still didn't like it, but he would treat it like eating vegetables. A necessary evil, but one that would ensure he could best protect his team and one day become Hokage so he could protect the entire village. Kakashi had his team turn in for the night. He still had them set up watches. It was good practice for his team and it never hurt to be cautious. Before they did so, he returned the weights to his team. All three of them eagerly put them on. All of them had already improved their strength and stamina through the use of the weights and wanted to continue to get stronger. Break. The next morning they ate a delicious breakfast. The townsfolk greeted them eagerly. They were treated as heroes. They had ended the reign of Gato. Gato's thugs had fled the town that night. Not all of them knew what happened. Some claimed a monster had been unleashed, others claimed that shinobi had ripped people apart with their bare hands. Genjutsu meant that the stories were even more outlandish than what had actually happened. At the bridge there was no shortage of volunteers to help. Kakashi also had Naruto make dozens of clones to help move supplies and materials. With the additional help and the clones, Tazuna would be able to get the bridge finished ahead of schedule. Kakashi continued to train his team while the bridge was constructed. His training was focused almost exclusively on taijutsu and team tactics. Sasuke was the undisputed champion in the sparring within the squad. His Sharingan allowed him to read moves through the tiny changes in muscles as someone prepared an attack. With the weights on, both he and Naruto were at similar speeds. In addition to the Sharingan, Sasuke's taijutsu was simply superior to Naruto's. However, Naruto had more weight on than Sasuke. A fact that irked the Uchiha. How was the dead last able to surpass him? He had demanded Kakashi up the weights and Kakashi refused. And don't even think about doing it yourself, you'll increase the chance of sprains and fractures by moving too quickly. If you exhaust your muscles, you'll do more harm than good. Then how is he able to take all the extra weight? Kakashi gave him an eye smile. That's a great question, Sasuke. Naruto is able to heal faster than others. The reason for that is a secret. One that I am going to encourage Naruto to share. Unfortunately, it is not a technique that can be copied. Sasuke's brain worked to solve what the secret was. He asked his sensei, is it a Kekkei Genkai like the Sharingan? It was a reasonable guess. It would explain the greater healing ability and the need for keeping it a secret. Kakashi merely smiled beneath the mask and responded, I've said all that I plan to on this, Sasuke. Sasuke wasn't happy, but if it was a Kekkei Genkai then it didn't matter. It just meant he would have to work harder. He couldn't afford to let the class dobi surpass him. Sasuke was glad that Naruto wasn't weak. He would be someone he could measure himself against. And as Kakashi had pointed out early in their training, having a strong team could only work to his benefit. Naruto was better than Sakura in their spars. However, Sakura becoming incredibly adept at avoiding blows. Facing the quick and brutally efficient Sasuke had taught her how to minimize her movements. Her blocks were precise and close to her body. If the attack was too strong, she smoothly glided away. Without the weights Naruto could have finished her quickly, but with them it was next to impossible to pin her down and win the bout. The only reason he would end up winning is when Sakura finally became too winded to move as fast as she could. Within the week the bridge was complete and Tazuna thanked Kakashi and his team. Even Inari was smiling again. His grandpa was safe and the man who had murdered his surrogate father was killed. The strong killed the weak, that was life, but his amazing granddad had found people stronger than Gato and his money. With a final wave, Team 7 began their return trip home. The 4 shinobi of Konoha returned to their village quickly and without incident. Naruto couldn't wait to get the best ramen in town. As he was about to dash off, Kakashi reminded him they had to report back at the Hokage Tower first. Ah, but ramen. Kakashi's one visible eye twitched violently. Every time he thought he was making progress. The 3 reported directly to the Hokage. Sarutobi had a pipe in his mouth as he saw Team 7 enter to make their report. The first report had led to the mission being upgraded to A rank B mission. The second report after the battle that led to the death of Zabuza turned it into an A-ranked mission. Hiruzen had great confidence in Kakashi's abilities, but really this was a bit much for a young genin team's first mission. Kakashi made his report efficiently and effectively. The Hokage's eyebrows shot up at having the genin kill so quickly. He had wanted them to retain their innocence a little longer. He shook himself out of his thoughts as the elite Jonin continued the debrief. When Kakashi finished, the third Hokage smiled at the 4 shinobi. You've exceeded my expectations, well done. Kakashi took the praise in stride while his genin team basked in it. Kakashi could tell even Sasuke was affected by the words, though he hid it well. Naruto's smile was an ear-to-ear grin. Sakura was more demure, but she positively glowed at the praise from the village's legendary leader. The Hokage dismissed everyone but Kakashi. Naruto invited the other 2 for ramen. Sasuke shrugged and agreed. Kakashi would expect him to be part of the team. With Sasuke going, it made Sakura's choice a foregone conclusion. All 3 of the genin headed to Ramen Ichiraku. Hiruzen looked at Kakashi. I understand you don't want it in writing that Sasuke has unlocked the Sharingan. Hi, if no one knows Sasuke has developed the Sharingan, he will be better protected. A live Sharingan can make him a target. Furthermore, it always helps for a shinobi to be underestimated. The Hokage chewed on his pipe in thought. I'll keep it out of the written reports. I understand caution, but only a few people have access to the reports. Sometimes your wariness is more like paranoia, Kakashi-san. The masked Jonin looked at the Hokage and replied with simple logic, if I take precautions that aren't needed, it is a minor inconvenience. But if I take precautions when it is needed, it could make all the difference. Any edge, no matter how small, that will help them survive, I will give them. He couldn't find fault with the argument, so he agreed to do as his Jonin asked. The written copies of the report were different than what had been orally communicated. Most everything was the same, but the Sharingan was absent completely, as was any mention of the genin helping Kakashi deal with Zabuza. With a bow, Kakashi left Sarutobi alone with his thoughts. Kakashi took the pay for the mission and also turned in the sealing scroll that had Zabuza's head. Zabuza's blade was also given up, but instead of using it as part of the bounty, it would go to the care of Konoha, where it would find a worthy wielder. Kakashi would split the money with his team in the next morning. For now, it was time to see if the latest Ika had arrived while he was gone. Break. Naruto was ecstatic. Not only was he finally getting his favorite food at Ramen Ichiraku, but both of his teammates would be with him. Naruto introduced them to Tsuki and his daughter Ayame. Sasuke said little while Sakura introduced herself properly. Soon they were all eating delicious ramen. While neither was as enthusiastic as Naruto, it was tasty and they enjoyed it. After completing the ramen, they went their separate ways. Naruto returned to his home. Since placing a few traps, the home had not been vandalized. The fact that he was a shinobi now meant that he could legally assault someone for breaking into his residence. Naruto made a dozen clones that began reading books. Naruto considered what he would like to with the money he would soon be receiving as his share of the bounty and the A-ranked mission. His come use new furniture, but Naruto honestly didn't care about that. He wanted to get stronger. He wanted to purchase something that would enhance his skills. Kakashi had told him about chakra blades that would be very expensive but extremely useful for a wind affinity like himself. Naruto also thought about getting alternative weaponry. Most shinobi favored small weaponry that allowed for easy carrying and stowing so that hand signs could be used at a moment's notice. He did like the thought of wielding a katana or a staff. From reading historical battles, he knew his Jiji used a staff in battle that he summoned. Naruto decided to go shopping at a weapons store and see what might be effective for him. He left his clones to continue their reading while he used his henge to look like a nondescript teenage shinobi. That done, he went into town, avoiding all of the glares and hate he had been subjected to for most of his life. The young genin was still kicking himself for not thinking of this plan prior to Kakashi telling him. Naruto found himself browsing a weapon shop. Like a kid in a candy store, Naruto drooled over the potential additions to his shinobi arsenal. The shopkeeper allowed him to handle the various weapons, and Naruto tried a few moves with each of them. Laughter interrupted once one of his practice strikes. He turned and found a young kunoichi shaking her head. "You are holding that katana all wrong." Naruto flushed, thankful the henge hid his embarrassment. "I never trained with any weapons other than the academy standard ones," he defended himself. Naruto recognized the girl. She was a fellow genin a year ahead of his graduating class. Her name was Tenten, and she had a reputation for knowing her way around weapons. Naruto's clones had learned a lot just observing the village, and this was one of the little facts that came to mind. Tenten showed Naruto the proper way to hold the blade. Naruto had an idea. "Hey Tenten, how about you some weapons and help me pick out something that will be useful for me?" Tenten looked at the shinobi she had never seen until now and asked, I have my own training to do, plus you haven't even introduced yourself. Who are you?" Quote. Naruto considered lying, but he suspected the keen-eyed kunoichi would be able to detect the henge in any falsehood. Instead, he leaned in close. "I'm Naruto, part of Team 7. A lot of the shop owners don't like me, so I use a henge." Tenten was surprised that Naruto was in disguise. Naruto had been held back, so for a brief time he had actually been in Tenten's class. A subtle Naruto instead of a bright orange overly excitable Naruto sparked her curiosity. Tenten said, "All right, let's do this. I'll show you a variety of weapons for a couple of hours and you tell me what you've been up to these days." Naruto laughed. "All right. Let's head the practice field right now." Both of them left the shop and proceeded to the nearest training field. Along the way, Naruto regaled Tenten with how awesome it was to be a shinobi. About how they went on their first mission outside of the village and how it had turned into a Ranka mission. Naruto did manage to hold back anything related to his and his teammates' training. While Tenten was clearly a fellow Leaf shinobi, Kakashi had warned him about sharing news about his abilities. Spies existed in the shinobi world and one never knew who was listening. Tenten didn't ask about that anyhow. Instead, she was fascinated by Zabuza's weapon, Kubikiribocho. Naruto didn't know why she was so obsessed with it, but he answered all of the questions she had. He didn't really know much about the weapon. Kakashi had been the one to do nearly all of the battle in that conflict. When they arrived at the practice field, Tenten showed the Jinchuriki all types of weapons. Naruto was in awe at the arsenal she pulled out. Several of the weapons were not practical in his mind, but she wielded them with a grace that was astounding. Tenten had him test out several of the weapons and adjusted his forms and grip as needed. "Are you a close-range fighter or do you prefer to stay in the back?" That was an interesting question. The immediate answer was a ranged fighter due to Kakashi's lessons. But Naruto had been working on looking underneath the surface. While Kakashi would want his team to stay back and minimize their risk, he expected Naruto to use his clones in close combat. Any weapon skill he learned could be transferable to his clones. Naruto answered her, "I'm in between, I don't mind getting in close though." Tenten frowned at the non-answer but then shrugged. "In that case, let's set you up with what you had in the store, a katana." It's straightforward but allows for a longer reach than a kunai but still allows combat in close quarters. They spent the last 30 minutes going through weapon drills. Naruto thanked Tenten profusely and declared, "With this extra training I'll have all I need to be the next Hokage." Tenten rolled her eyes but accepted the thanks with good grace. Naruto asked her if she knew any good books or scroll techniques he could pick up for using a katana. She named a book he could pick up that showed the basic stances and a generic fighting style. Anything too far advanced is typically held secret by families or clans. Don't let that stop you though. Come up with your own style and your opponent will be in trouble because they won't have ever seen it before. Naruto again thanked her and returned to the shop to purchase a pair of katanas. Having backup equipment was another rule that his sensei had drilled into him. At the shop he also requested the chakra blades. Chakra blades were made of material that absorbed chakra and were rare. The store didn't have them, but if Naruto paid for them up front he would order a pair of kunai made of the chakra absorbent material. Naruto would have to come back the next day to put in the order as Kakashi hadn't split the proceeds from the bounty yet. Naruto returned home excited about showing off his new weapon to the team tomorrow. Break. Sakura had enjoyed the meal with the team. She loved her Sasuke-kun and Naruto wasn't nearly as annoying as he used to be. The team was starting to feel like a family and she wanted to do all she could to protect it. It was time to make a decision. Genjutsu or training in medical jutsu. Sakura made her decision based on what had happened in the battles they had been in. Death was swift. Death was often instantaneous. Haku died to a kunai to the brain. Zabuza died due to his heart being obliterated by Kakashi's Chidori. No medical jutsu could fix that. Threats to the team could be fatal before she even got a chance to heal. But what if she could prevent an attack from landing in the first place? What if she could use her superior chakra control to ensure her teammates didn't even get hit? With these thoughts in mind she chose her specialty. It would be in Genjutsu. Genjutsu was a rare art in Konoha. The primary users had been the Uchiha clan through the use of their dojutsu. That path required the Sharingan, a clear dead end. The most famous Genjutsu user currently in the village was Kurenai Yu. The problem was that she had her own Genin team, and Jonin instructors should put all of their efforts on improving their own team. That went double for the first year as a Jonin. Kakashi would absolutely train her, but she knew that was not his specialty. Kakashi was a master at ninjutsu and an absolute terror with taijutsu, but his genjutsu was limited. Sakura would need someone else to help supplement her training in this if she was to develop it to the point where it could actually fool dangerous opponents. Sakura decided to put her ear to the ground and see if she could find a Jonin who was skilled with genjutsu who could tutor her a couple of times a week. Between that and the training Kakashi would give her, she should be able to make significant progress. Her share of the bounty would be used to pay for the lessons. Sakura felt a burst of energy inside of her. She had confidence in her choice. She was not going to be a liability to her team. Break. Team 7 met up again the next day. As was typical, they quickly and efficiently completed a D-ranked mission and then turned to training. Kakashi talked to them about what they would want to tackle next on their training agenda. Kakashi was approving of Sakura's choice to specialize in genjutsu. He told her to continue working to improve her taijutsu and conditioning with weights. On that subject, he had purchased a new set of weights for all of them. These weights at first were incredibly light until they pushed chakra into them. These seals are designed to be only accessed by yourselves. Only increase the weight when I advise you to, but in a fight you can quickly release the excess weight. Additional when we travel too much weight and you'll snap tree limbs as you leap from branch to branch. All three of the genin also had their weights increased. Kakashi created a pair of clones so he could have some one-on-one time with each of his students. The original went with Sasuke. He was going to teach the last Uchiha the original move he had created. The Chidori. Sasuke had seen it in action and knew it was a fantastic kill move. It would burst through most defensive barriers, especially earth, which was often used for defense. Kakashi cautioned Sasuke on the use of it. Never use this on a comrade or a leaf shinobi. This jutsu should only be used on the enemies of Konoha. Sasuke promised to obey this command. Sasuke also learned his chakra reserve would only allow him to use it 2 times before being exhausted. With constant training you should be able to increase the number of times you can use this jutsu to 3 fairly quickly. With the aid of the Sharingan it was easy for Sasuke to pick up the jutsu, and by the end of the day he had successfully performed the jutsu and slammed it into the earth, leaving a crater. Excellent work, now on to your taijutsu training. Sasuke pushed his groaning muscles the limit with the new chakra weights. He was still able to maintain the perfection that Kakashi required in taijutsu forms. He was determined not to fall behind Naruto with weights and speed. With Sakura he taught her some more basic genjutsu applications. Most genjutsu operated on sight, but a few operated on auditory senses. The auditory ones were extraordinarily rare but very effective, since it meant the victim could be affected before even laying sight on the caster. I don't have any auditory genjutsu in my repertoire. It will be a long shot if your tutor has one either. Sight genjutsu is still amazingly powerful. Remember, on this team you don't necessarily need to isolate and control an individual for a significant length of time. As soon as the genjutsu has them, one of us should move to eliminate the threat instantly. The clone with Naruto observed him use the katana. Naruto explained his reasoning as well as Kakashi looked on. I need to get good with this so my clones can use it well. I'll still keep my hands free for using jutsu. Kakashi praised Naruto for the plan. Good thinking, Naruto. I'm glad you thought ahead of this. I'm also glad you are putting in the order for the chakra blades. With your wind affinity those chakra kunai will be devastating. Kakashi also taught Naruto a new jutsu. You are already familiar with Futon, Daitapa, wind release, great breakthrough. I am going to show you a modification of this technique. Naruto jumped in the air with excitement, a new jutsu. The clone's visible eye twitched. He doubted he would ever get used to Naruto's un-shinobi-like behavior. He also doubted he could break him of the habit without breaking the boy completely down. Kakashi clapped his palms together. Futon. Repusho, wind release. Gale palm, a burst of wind pushed out from around Kakashi in all directions. Naruto was shoved backward a dozen feet but landed agilely. This attack, unlike Daitapa, has a 360-degree arc. Using this will allow you to stop projectiles from all directions. You can also use it as a surprise in close quarters, but it doesn't have the destructive potential of Daitapa. Naruto eagerly made a score of clones and began practicing. As always, Kakashi was amazed at the sheer level of chakra Naruto had. Most shinobi, including himself, had to be cautious of using too much ninjutsu. Naruto had just left the academy and had chakra reserves that surpassed most jonin. While he'd started at pathetically abysmal levels, it had grown much better. The shadow clone technique had got Naruto's chakra control to appropriate levels in a fraction of the time it would otherwise have taken. Overall, Kakashi was very pleased with the progress of Team 7. He didn't want to interrupt their training too much by tackling missions away from the village. However, he did want them to have more exposure to real shinobi missions. For the next 2 days he would train them hard, and he would scan the mission list for anything that was relatively close by that was a C or B rank. Normally no genin would be going on B rankings, but he knew he could convince the old man that his team could handle it. In all honesty, any B rank would be a piece of cake for Kakashi to solo. His mission success rate on missions was quite nearly flawless. Regardless of rank, the important part of the mission was that it be close to Konoha. It was difficult to train at the level he demanded his team to train at on the road. As was typical, Kakashi completed his own training after Team 7 split. Kakashi practiced what he preached. He would place his own chakra weights and continued to hone his own body. He also liked to experiment with jutsu combinations and find new uses for them. After 3 hours of training he cooled down and drifted on to rest. Kakashi felt good about his team's progress and eagerly looked forward to see how his 3 genin would develop. A little bit of training in this arc. I won't spend as much time detailing training as I did earlier. I do want to put in place how and why they picked up certain skills. The next mission will be a brand new one outside of the anime. Remember, Team 7 has returned back from Wave quicker because there was no recovery period and Naruto's clones helped build the bridge faster.